Welcome back. It's the Scaling Secrets podcast. Kelsey Gilbert Kreiling is here. Now, Kelsey is a web designer and author and co-founder of Week of the Website. They are a 10-year-old agency, and they work with individual entrepreneurs, small businesses, agency partners, and enterprise-level organizations to build marketing and e-commerce sites that exceed expectations. And Kelsey's first book is called Squarespace from Sign Up to Launch, which makes web design approachable at any stage of understanding. It's available at Amazon. And so we're going to find out today the secrets to why we should use Squarespace, but also, even more importantly, what Kelsey's done, what she's built, what she's grown, how she's overcome all those business building obstacles and roadblocks. So, Kelsey, glad to be speaking with you.
Thank you, Robert. That was a very nice intro. I feel like you really knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, I'm practiced, right? I'm seasoned, and I'm sure you are too. And you sometimes you go to a website, and there's websites where it's like awkward, and you're not really sure, like it's kind of nothing special. And other websites where you're like, hey, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly for me. It's slick, and we definitely want to pick up on some of that and find out some of the secrets and just discover what you're doing right. And so this whole idea of like, hey, it's a smooth operation when it's great for a podcast, but also great for a website. And so we introduced you, hyped you up a little bit, but in your own words, what are you all about? What's your focus and your passion?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, started my agency with a business partner 10 years ago this summer. And we really started out with the goal of making web design as easy and painless and even sometimes fun as we possibly could. And I think at the end of the day, we've really stayed true to that core. We started building on Squarespace I started building on Squarespace probably about 14 years ago when I was working for a hospitality company. But over the years have grown to be a really efficient way for early stage businesses to have a website built for them in, about a week. It's a super custom process. We're not doing template restyling. It's actually a custom website built for them on the platform. And the reason we have used Squarespace over the years is because it allows small business owners and entrepreneurs to then edit, use, and own that website without feeling like they have to hire us each time they want to swap out a picture. So we started I built the websites, my business partner project managed everything. And now here we are, years later, and we've got a team of about 18 who help us make each of these projects happen for our clients. And we've also become Squarespace Enterprise's preferred professional services partner, meaning that every time they have a client who comes to use the enterprise product who needs web design or implementation, we are their go-to design agency to help bring those clients to the platform. So what started very small has now scaled into something that's really fun and wonderful and large. And it's been quite the journey. So that's the last couple of years.
Very cool. And it sounds like quite the adventure, and you've definitely grown a monster, a beast. And so I'm curious about just this, like Squarespace. It's its own kind of niche, right? Like it used to be just like, okay, you have a website, and then like WordPress kind of went into like the complicated territory. And then there's like a handful of these like website kind of platforms where the shtick of it is like, it's easy, it's simple, but it also looks good. And when I first saw those, like, 10, 14 years ago, like you were talking about, they were really basic. And it's like you could choose like one of 5 templates. But whenever I go and I look at some of the Squarespace type of website platforms, I'm always impressed and like surprised with, you can kind of do anything on it now, and all the amazing things they've added, but also balancing the ease of use. So that way someone like you can do all these amazing things and build out all this stuff, but then the client is not married to you for life. And if they want to go and make some change, they can go do it. And there's not all this like custom coding or all these systems integrated together. And so what does Squarespace do and have that maybe someone like me who hasn't seen it in a few years do? And like what's amazing and surprising about it?
Yeah, I think it's very hard to do a lot of things simply. And so I'm always fascinated by the way that they're bringing new features into the platform while balancing that with kind of their trademark, minimalism. I tell people all the time that the reason we have chosen to specialize in Squarespace is because it sits perfectly at the intersection of design customization for creatives like me and usability for ultimately the person who owns the website. Some of the things that I think people probably haven't heard as much about, you can now go in and sell pretty much any kind of product within Squarespace. So, of course, there's typical e-commerce that now includes the ability to have subscriptions. You can also monetize blog content. You can create and build courses. You can create entire gated and paid areas within your website. And instead of being like a hyper specific tool like Kajabi or Teachable for something like that, it is really amazing how they've built the ability for that to be a part of your website. So if you're someone who has, maybe a paid newsletter product, a course, paid resources, you can now do all of that in one place, which is fascinating and I think more complicated than people probably give it credit for. But after years of saying, yes, we can build your website on Squarespace and we'll build your course here and we'll do this newsletter here and we'll do this using this other third-party tool. Each month it seems like they're building more and more resources to be able to run a 360 business within the platform, which I think, especially for early stage companies, is vital, right? Like, it's not hard to find SaaS products that solve really specific problems for really large companies, but it is, more and more difficult to balance out all of your different tech spend when you're an early stage business. So I really like that piece of it.
Very nice. One-stop shop. And
Yeah.
and also the simplicity of it, where it's always so frustrating when you say, and especially like we say 10 plus years ago, when it's like, well, you need a website, but you also have to sign up here and sign up there and connect all that together and have your shopping cart
Yeah.
there and your membership site there, and it becomes a whole, just all the subscriptions, all the pieces working together, afraid of all these things that will break. Plus it's ugly. Plus you need to make it all look the same, and it seems like quite the nightmare. So it seems like Squarespace is the place to be. And so you've also mentioned here that you started small and built it out. So, I mean, tell us about that. What were those first few clients like, and what did you do right in order to grow this thing?
Yeah, we really specifically focused in on hospitality clients when we first started. We thought, our bread and butter forever is going to be building restaurant and bar websites. And, our first project was this great restaurant in Chicago called Dove's. It's still here. I walk past it all the time. And, 10 years ago, we helped them build a website and launch it on the platform. And I'll never forget their chef partner. They asked us in the prep, like, well, why not WordPress? And I was like, listen, I know you like WordPress. You're on it now. Let me tell you about Squarespace and why I think this is a good fit for your company. I will never forget, by the end, Paul's just sitting at the end of the table and he's like, Squarespace, Squarespace. Because I thought, this is the perfect tool for this type of client. They have a fairly lower tech, comfort level. They're going to make quick, iterative changes. They're going to need something that can evolve with their restaurant, right? What a restaurant looks like when it opens versus what it looks like 5 years ago 5 years later is often very different. And so we thought this is the ideal customer for us. And when we created the week of the website process, which was like very high touch, very efficient, resulting in custom websites built in a week, we thought this is going to be perfect for restaurants. We priced it at what we thought was in their investment decks and then launched it and built a ton of websites that were not restaurant websites. So we were really surprised that we had like niched into a specific industry and then found that actually other people want that as well. So it was a little bit of like a surprise in the way that the business ended up developing. And of course, years later, now we're doing like a lot of restaurant websites again. But for a while there, we found ourselves working with nonprofit organizations and businesses that were just starting out. I think everyone's heard that idiom of like, when you're new, you need to move fast and break things. And I think that doesn't feel good if you've just invested, 5 figures into a website. You don't want to feel like you're super tied to it. And so as we've seen like new businesses come up and the growth of startups and the growth of, individuals being able to go into business at the drop of a hat, it's been really cool to be kind of timed well for the market for people who need like their best next website that can continue to evolve with them. And over the last year, we've really specialized in building bulk websites for companies and organizations that need repeated websites, but not the same website, right? So we just worked with YWCA to move their .org over to Squarespace from WordPress. And then we worked with them to move 75 of their local associations over within 4 months. So it's, the kind of thing that we can do specifically using the Squarespace Enterprise platform, because what we did for them is design them a template that we then worked with each of their organizations to customize and launch. And that was magic, right? That was just a wild and wonderful experience for us. So we're looking forward to doing lots more of that work. And then as our clients have grown, we also have been stepping into the Shopify space to take our, kind of signature approach of efficient customization to that platform as our clients scale into more complex stores and things like that.
Very nice. And just a handful of things to add to that checklist of things that Squarespace does, right? With the templates and the Shopify and all these amazing things that are possible. And there's when it comes to websites, I'm always thinking okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to sit up and take notice, right? And they always say about these best practices that have the intuitive navigation, have it load fast, have the hours, have the contact button.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you especially focus on, or is there anything that drives you crazy that's missing from a lot of websites?
Great. Two great questions. One, I am known for asking people, what do you want them to do next? That is the most important question that I think anyone needs to be asking themselves when they're thinking about a website at any given point in the website. What do you want the user to be doing right now? Should they be clicking a button? Should they be moving through your content? Should they be signing up? And you have to know that so that you can design with intentionality, or ask your team to design with that level of intentionality. Because if the user comes to the page and they don't know what to do, that ultimately that's not working. So that is something that is just we keep very core to our process. I think having clarity around the story that you want to tell and thinking about that as something that unfolds throughout your website. I was working with a UX designer on our team recently, and she was like, your website should start minimal and go deeper, right? It's a funnel of information, so that every time someone opts in, they're going a little bit deeper into the story. And I thought that was a really nice way to visualize how people process information. Is your homepage doesn't have to have everything about you on it. It just has to orient people to the ways that they can learn about you. So those are a couple things that are really important to me. For me, it drives me wild, in not a good way, when someone shares a Squarespace website and they haven't changed the browser icon from the default black box, and likewise not putting a sharing logo in for sharing on social media. Those are two that everyone knows on my team. Do not share don't share a project with me if you haven't done those two, because those are the first things I'm going to say. Browser icon, sharing logo. My newest one too is I really want a password page to be designed to match the brand, because you never want someone to feel like the website hasn't been considered from, the macro to the micro. So that one is I'll give people more leeway on that, because not everyone's using a password page. But I do love, our team usually will design a fun 404 page for our clients, so that it feels like an extension of the website they're on and not just a boring 404. And I think little touches like that, making sure that you're covering every instance of how the site will be used, that always gives me a lot of joy when I see our team doing that, because that's the kind of experience we want for our clients,
Right. Attention to detail. What a concept. And especially with those things that you don't mention, like the 404 page, and we've all been there, right? You're on some website and there's a 404 for whatever reason. And sometimes it's really just ugly and you can't even go back. And I'm just oh, just need to close this whole page down, versus if it matches the rest of the site, I'm a little more forgiving, especially where sometimes the 404 page says, hey, well, we think you might have been looking for this instead. I'm oh, so it's it's only half a 404 page, right? It was not found, but it's still taking me somewhere else. And so when you think about all of the sort of attention to detail aspects, you have this week of the website concept, but I imagine that you mentioned before about the website kind of grows over time. So I imagine that the website is something that you revisit and look at it. It might take a while to just kind of look at it again and rework it. And even sometimes people say like, oh, redo your website like every year or two, and that's just like that's overwhelming to me. And so can you tell us about that, just the ongoingness and the evolution of your website?
Yeah. I think websites are or more like houses than paintings, right? Like when you buy a house or you move into a house, you have this expectation that every day you're going to do a little something to continue to keep it in good shape or to improve it. And I don't think everyone needs to be updating their website every day. Please do not hear me say that and be like, oh my gosh, this woman is out of her mind. But I do think keeping that as kind of an understanding of what you're doing. You know, a painting, when it's done, you don't want to touch it ever again. But the internet is not static. The internet changes, new things come up, your business changes. And so I think we always want people to feel comfortable with the idea that like their website's never done, it's just launched, because you're always going to be making updates and changes to make sure that it's reflecting your business as it stands today. I know very few businesses that stay the same week after week, month after month, year after year. Good for them if they do, but I don't think that that's really an accurate reflection of how this works in such a fast-paced world. So we always want people to feel comfortable with the idea that like you're not doing anything wrong if you're continuing to evolve your website. We touch our website constantly. And I also think doing things like blog posts and updating content are very, very good for search engine optimization and for social and organic search. So yeah, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but I think it's nice to just keep that in mind that, you know, you're going to have to clean the sink. You're going to have to, you know, maybe update some art in your bathroom, and that's okay. That's just part of the process.
Right, just updating it, and it's what we all want, right? That's what the Google gods want, and what those of us
Yes.
browsing a website want. We don't want someone that hasn't even looked at their website in the past 7 years. The same way you go to some brick and mortar business, you go to that restaurant you mentioned, and say if like the door was falling off the hinges or the stairs were collapsing, there's a pile of dirt on the floor. That's like I might not go here ever again, but we keep it updated, keep things clean and fresh, and update the painting in the
Yeah.
bathroom. I mean, good advice and ideas in general. And so you,
Yeah.
like you said, you've been on this exciting journey of growing your company, but it's never a straight line, is it? Sometimes there's the panic and the stress and the emergencies. And so does anything come to mind as far as a wrinkle in the journey, as far as just something that was a complete scary disaster that we can all learn from, because we can look back and laugh now, but does anything like that come to mind as far as sharing?
100%. My son came 4 weeks early. I was still at the time building websites, but knew that I wasn't going to be building in a client facing capacity once I gave birth to him. So I was finishing up my last site, and I thought I had a month. I did not. He showed up on a Wednesday morning as a surprise. And that was a really hard moment for us. Like, we had a couple of projects that fell through at the last minute while we had to pull in contractors to cover my work for the client. And for a long time, that was like a moment that I look back with so much sadness and confusion, because I felt like if my business isn't prepared for me to walk away at any moment, I don't have a strong enough company. I was so lucky that I had an incredible co founder who was able to step in and help make things work. I have a really great life partner who is a great co founder as well. And he was willing to like pick things up so that I could step in to take care of my company, even though I had just had a tiny baby. But that moment was so hard. And it took a long time to realize like businesses, it's okay if they can't operate perfectly on an emergency basis without one of their co-founders. That means that I'm just still woven into the fabric of it. But it has changed a lot of the ways that we have systematized things, because I never want that to happen again. I never want to be the weak link in my company. So it really forced me to kind of step back and evaluate, what do I have my hands in? What do I need to train people on? How do I delegate? And how do I make sure that, you know, if life shifts and I have something that takes me away at a moment's notice, how does the engine keep running without my hand on it? And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's like a hypothetical that they think about. But once you go through it for real and find yourself looking at your company going, oh my God, like I stepped away for 2 minutes and everybody needs me, you realize, oh, that can't be forever. So Now we look back and we laugh. We were just at coffee with a agency partner a few minutes ago, laughing about what that moment was like. But I think you grow exponentially from those moments of challenges if you choose to use them in that way. So I'm glad it turned out the way that it did.
Right. The unexpected success. And I'm with you right there is that when you have those moments of the panic, failure, stress, and when you then learn from it and improve later to maybe make it happen less in the future or not happen as badly or just kind of like learn from it and improve from it. And that's the holy grail right there, is a business that doesn't need you, that you can walk away from, because otherwise you've
Yeah.
built yourself a job. And then we all want that, right? We all want to have that business where other people run it and we just kind of work on it to the extent that we want to, and then that's a business that can be sold or doesn't rely on us or depend on us. And but sometimes, as you said, like people talk about it in an abstraction and it's like wishful thinking. And it's like, I think about this all the time, that people say like, oh, have a turnkey business and have an SOP about everything you do, so that way it's just anyone could pick it up. But how do you get there? Because then there's all these excuses for not doing it, right? Like, only I can
Yeah.
do it, or how do I find the time to document all this? So once everything recovered and you came back from having the baby, etc., like what did you have to do in order to remove yourself from the business in those few ways?
Yeah. It's not instant, right? Like it had to be something that we worked on for, I mean, 2.5 years. And I actually think that you'll always be working on it, right? You think about McDonald's, it's the ultimate SOP, right? I promise you, there are still things that they are changing about their operating manuals daily now, or weekly or monthly for their franchisees. Um, we made a couple of big moves. We hired an amazing agency assistant who acts as an extension of Mallory and myself and our operations manager, Katie. And she has been an incredible tool for helping us stay accountable to the tasks that we want to complete, and doing, some of the research and work that we simply can't fit into the day. So I think finding someone who can support you on that journey has been really amazing. We have been working with an outstanding chief of staff who has keeping us on track in a weekly scorecard review, so that we know the numbers, we know the things that we want to accomplish, and then really keeping us to an executive to-do list that helps us make sure we're accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. The minute we implemented those two things, I think our ability to see our business from the outside just accelerated. And it feels impossible when you don't have those systems, because you're just like, how am I ever going to do this? I'm, overseeing our developers. I'm doing business development. I'm, liaising with potential enterprise clients. I'm trying to build, our persona out in the world. How am I ever going to get an SOP? And the answer is like, you won't, you can't, you need to find someone to help you. And when you're transitioning from like a very small business, in this case, like a solo entrepreneur or two business partners, you have to find the right people to help you support through those transitions, because otherwise you will not be able to do it alone.
And that's huge. And that's a great insight that you've shared, is just that it requires other people, multiple brains. You yourself can't do it. If you yourself on your own could have done all this and could have figured all this, you would have. And you need these new people with these new techniques and strategies and time and attention and all these things that just one person just physically does not have. And it's a huge insight, but it's also easy for that entrepreneurial stubbornness to creep in and to not wake up to that advice. Like, you need other bodies on the problem. You need other people to help you out here. And so as
Yeah.
far as Squarespace, websites, your company, what you've grown, the future, etc., is there a question that is invisible, hidden, that I'm not asking you here? Is there something that you just wish I would ask you in our conversation?
Oh, that's great. We didn't really talk about the book too much yet, but last year I wrote a book with Pact, technical publisher, called Squarespace from Sign Up to Launch. And a question I get asked all the time is, why the would you do that? You seem like a pretty busy person. Why would you stop and write a book about Squarespace? And it's obviously a platform I know quite a bit about, and it's something that I feel really passionate about. But when I had the opportunity to take a step back to see the platform from this kind of 1,000-foot view. It was a really exciting way to reconnect with not just the technical pieces of the work that we do every day for our clients, but I also used it as an opportunity to interview all of these very interesting people in the Squarespace field to add their insights to each chapter so that they could talk about, I had the Christine Neal, who's kind of the go-to for Squarespace e-commerce, participate in an interview on the e-commerce chapter and things like that. And then I actually built a course with a company called Super High for advanced Squarespace. I've always really wanted people to feel empowered to use this platform because that's how I got started, right? No one gave me the keys. No one told me I was allowed to use this platform. I just started building and learning. And I think that's one of the most important things about this. I hear a lot like, why would you work yourself out of a job by teaching people how to use this platform? And my answer is because that's what it's there for, right? Like it was built to be a DIY platform. I want to empower people to feel like they have the connective potential of a website at their fingertips. Everyone should be able to have a website if they need one. It just so happens if they don't want to keep building it, we're there to help them. But I think that was like a very rewarding part of my career because I got to take all that knowledge I had accrued in the service of working for clients for years and years and building a website a week for many years in a row. And yeah, that was the best part. It was just like, it made sense. I also kind of do not remember doing it. Like, I feel like I blacked out. And when I came to, there was a book, but it was probably just because there were so many nights of like repetitive typing on my couch. But I'm really glad that it came out, and it's been exciting to hear the feedback from people that it's been a really useful resource in learning how to use their websites.
And that's great. And what you've done here as far as this publicity strategy, it's kind of scary or counterintuitive, right? Because like you said, some people said like, well, why would you give away the information? It's like, well, because people are figuring it out anyway, and they're getting halfway there, they're getting frustrated, they're reading other books, they're watching the YouTubes. Like it's not like you're the only one that has this information, but then
Yeah.
by you giving it away in a sense, you have this book, you have this kind of authority piece, and then the right people, and even maybe like better clients than you had, like higher ticket, and people with like bigger needs and bigger problems then find you. And it's kind of like counterintuitive, right? Like it's like the freelancer's dilemma of like, well, you're just hustling for jobs and it's hard to do, but then you do the more big picture PR, authority building, book, teaching, education stuff, and then it's like, then you have to turn clients away. And so can you unpack or explain that a little bit? Just this idea of like having the book and giving away the information, like counterintuitively gets you more and better clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a little self-serving in both directions too, because it also builds better Squarespace developers that I can eventually hire, right? Like it creates more people who are better at using the platform that we use to build for our clients. I would say for us, there's a lot of competition in the space. There's a lot of amazing agencies and truly talented freelancers who build on this platform. There are so many different ways that you can build content in the space. And I've always been more comfortable as an agency than as a Kelsey, right? So this book has been interesting in the sense that it has pushed me to be more conversational about the work that we do. I've spent a lot of time just like behind the computer screen building things for clients. And it has helped me kind of practice that, showing up and talking a little bit more about how we do what we do, because I am immensely proud of our team and I am like wildly grateful for the opportunities our company has afforded me. I think there's really something to be said about people being able to introduce us as like, this is week of the website. They literally wrote the book on Squarespace and hold up a physical copy that, they can see. And I think that has been really something that has not only bolstered our clients' confidence in us, but our confidence in ourselves, right? Because our team, even though I wrote it, it was a team effort. We had technical editing from my team members and a lot of input from our other designers and developers. So I think it's something that has given all of us a very clear sense of, we know what we're doing. We will happily do it for you. And also, once you're done building a website with us, here's your new guide, right? Like, here's your training guide. So that's been really unique. And I think we kind of took a little bit of a wager, right? Because ultimately, if my time was spent writing a book, I wasn't doing other things that the company needed. But I think it's paid off in terms of how we are received as an entity and how people understand our dedication to it. And also how much we like really understand this platform. I got to share a copy with a couple of executive team members at Squarespace at their last developer conference. And I felt very shy about it. I was like, if someone drew a picture of my kid and gave it to me, I would think that was weird. And they were like, no, 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 this is amazing to hold our work in our hands from someone else's eyes. And that was like, sorry, that choked me up a little bit. Like, that was a really wild moment because, you know, my company exists because Squarespace was started 20 years ago. And each of those people show up to work and work on a platform that we use to help our clients be successful. And so it ends up becoming this really elegant kind of family tree of work that filters down to impacting real people in lives. And I try to never forget that because it is part of the why of what we do outside of just like, we like helping people. We like building websites. It's a really cool piece to kind of be the capstone on all of the whys of how our business has come to be.
Right. And that's what a lot of brands are looking to do, right? When you hear about the heartwarming stories about like Apple or Microsoft and like they changed lives, it's like, well, this is what it's all about, right? People using Squarespace to feed their families, to build these agencies, and then it's the like, you know, people learn the skill and they end up like working for you, or Squarespace like refers people to other agencies, and it's like this huge ecosystem that's built. It's amazing. And it's all bits and bytes, right? It's all ones and zeros, exists in the cloud, creates these weird things called websites, but it's the world we live in now, and it's super huge and amazing. And, you know, you mentioned a lot of just interesting, kind of just exciting aspects of putting out a book, right? Because you think about a book at first, it's like, oh, it's A to Z, start to finish, step by step. But what you've mentioned there is like, well, there's many people involved in it, in like the design and the cover, but then they're involved in it as far as the content. You interview people and you build up Squarespace, and there's the self-expression. It's like this thing that's come alive. It's really cool to hear about, and then use it as this networking tool, right? Use it to get in Squarespace's good graces. You're here right now at this moment doing the PR and the podcast. And so it's like more than just, hey, here's some steps. You click this to make a website. It's your principles and the philosophy and all this other cool stuff. And so what is in the future for you? Like, what has you excited about what is going to be possible with Squarespace, or just what is your company excited about themselves doing?
Yeah, I mean, the speed of evolution of the Squarespace product in the last year and a half has been incredible. I've watched them really listen to people's needs and, you know, add things as fast as they can while also considering the value that they add to the tool. So I think that's great. I have a lot of confidence in the future of the platform. We have spent a lot of time this year focusing on our agency partnerships. So we will work with marketing agencies, branding agencies, PR, positioning, all kinds of other service providers who need websites to be a part of their deliverables, to act as kind of the arm of execution for that. And it has been so fulfilling and so rewarding to kind of like power up our work with theirs. There's a restaurant website that we launched recently for a place called Bracero in Chicago. We partnered with a group called Hi-Fi Creative. And this website is a stunner. They did an amazing job of laying down the foundation for us visually. We then brought in our technical skills to bring it to life, right? To make it three-dimensional. And we actually worked with this person named Will Myers, who builds a lot of amazing Squarespace tools, to custom design a plugin that would work exactly the way that this client wanted this navigation element to work, that he then turned into a paid tool that other people can download and use on their Squarespace sites. So what started with, you know, an introduction between, hey, you should know this agency, we get the website, Hi-Fi, you guys should work together, snowballed into like a really great website that created this paid plugin for another entrepreneur. And this restaurant is now popping up on like the Rob Reports, top 10 restaurants in the US, new restaurants. So those projects like that have this incredible ripple effect. And we're always looking to meet more incredible agencies that we can partner with, or providers, solo entrepreneurs, to kind of help their clients' website dreams come true. So that I'm very, very excited about. I'm always excited to do more enterprise work. We love creating custom templates for people that they can then use in a repetitive way. And yeah, I mean, we're about to build a website for a yacht, so that's really exciting. There's so much to look forward to. We're starting to talk about like the 10-year in review and the time capsule piece of this, but I'm very grateful to have made it 10 years, and really can't wait to see what the next 10 bring.
Awesome. Well, I can feel your excitement through the screen. And when we talk about scaling secrets, you're not kidding, right? As far as like multiple teams working together and like whole new businesses, income streams, products being created as
Yeah.
a result of just one kind of interaction. It's amazing to think about. And it's exciting, right? That's the whole point of like, well, many points, but listening to a podcast, you want to get that inspiration and say, hey, like now I'm motivated to go and make my own app and website and etc. But a
Yeah.
podcast is just a little bit of a tease, right? A little bit of a insight into you and your company. So how can someone take the next step here? How can someone find out about Week of the Website and about Squarespace from sign up to launch? What are some website addresses?
Yeah. Weekofthewebsite.com is going to be kind of your one-stop shop for everything. You can learn a little bit about the book there, myself, my business partner. You can see our more productized offerings, so our quick projects all the way to our longer ones, and then you can reach out to us directly if you have something that is a little bit larger. But yeah, weekofthewebsite.com is the place for all of it.
Very cool. Weekofthewebsite.com. And that will be the real test, right? If people go to websites for different reasons, right? Maybe they want the book itself, but if you go there, then you better be intuitive and you better like know exactly where you want to go as far as those metrics, right? Those click goals. So
Yeah.
weekofthewebsite.com. And let's put it to the test. If you want the book or you want to talk to the agency or whatever, then go there. That's your hub. That's your one-stop shop. And as we wrap up our conversation here, Kelsey, I like to stump my guest a little bit and put them on the spot and ask for a simple and quick quote or lesson that has maybe helped them in their journey that can help us. And so you went through this whole self-expression and made the book and thought through all the phrases. So does anything just pop out in your mind? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but as far as a quote or lesson to help us out with our scaling secrets, entrepreneurial journey, what comes to mind as far as a quote or lesson?
The first thing that came to my mind is, I believe that this is like an unattributed quote. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think that is the thing that feels the most core to how we've grown and scaled with intentionality, with joy, with I think a really empathetic business that still provides incredible work. We do it together. There's no I. It's everyone always together.
Very nice. And I believe that's an African proverb, but you're right. There's no one person. It's not attributed. And that's fitting, right? How it's the power of the group. Of course, it's not one person that said it. So Kelsey, Gilbert, Kreiling from weekofthewebsite.com. Go there now to find out about the book. And if you need a website, if you need something amazing built using Squarespace, they are the place to go. Weekofthewebsite.com. Kelsey, it's been fabulous speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Robert. This has been such a phenomenal conversation. I really enjoyed it.
All right, super nice.